The Supreme Court is all set to pronounce its verdict on the petitions challenging Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code that criminalizes homosexuality. The verdict is likely to be announced at 10:30 a.m. Five-judge constitutional bench headed by Chief Justice of India Dipak Misra has reserved its verdict on July 17 after hearing various stakeholders for 4 days. The centre, meanwhile, has left it to the wisdom of the top court to examine the constitutional validity of the provision. In 2009, the Delhi High Court decriminalized sex between consulting adults with the same gender. The judgment was overturned by the Supreme Court in 2013, following which the court began hearing fresh curative petition against the order. Section 377 is 158-year-old colonial law, according to which gay sex is punishable by prison sentence up to 10 years.
One never expected the 2013 judgment, but somehow with the kind of the bench that we had, the kind of questions that were asked, and the fact that the privacy judgment, I think, will have an impact on tomorrow's judgment, makes me feel hopeful.
You know, in a country, you can't have everybody being equal and same. We have to celebrate diversity. And I think to penalize somebody for who they truly are or what they do behind a closed bedroom door is fundamentally wrong. It's violatory of human rights. And I feel very, very sad when it took this long for somebody to be known as an equal human being, to have their human rights, to have their dignity, to choose who they truly want to be. And I hope and pray that the court verdict is positive. And I'm very thankful that the courts, I think, made an observation that whether the government supports it or not, they will stand by the fundamental right of the citizen of India.
We do not feel invalidated by 377 anymore. So whatever the verdict may be, we are here, we are queer, and we will continue to exist. We will celebrate ourselves and our sexualities and our lives no matter what.
All right, let me bring in our guest on the show, Mr. Joshi Bhushan. He's an LGBT right activist who is joining us from the studio here in Noida. We are also being joined by Diljit. He's the advocate who is joining us from Delhi. We'll be going across to other guests and our reporters as well on this in just a short while from now. Let me start with you, Shashi. What is your expectation? Because after the Delhi High Court verdict, when that came in, there was a huge cheer, not only in the community, but also among those who have been, in fact, advocating equal rights for citizens, irrespective of their choice. But there was a huge setback when the Supreme Court, in fact, overturned it.
We celebrated when the judgment of Delhi High Court came in favor of LGBT. We were quite happy that, okay, at least equal rights have been given to the LGBTQ community. But there was always a fear, because we always know Indian society is always one step forward, two steps back. But we were not expecting this thing that Supreme Court can overrule the verdict given by the Delhi High Court. But at the same time, so many religious groups and the other fanatic groups, they were not happy with this verdict. We were quite unhappy with the government, means when they took no stand on this thing. We knew that our struggle should be continued, and it did. And we were sad, but we never lost any hope, and we are still hopeful about that.
Well, big day today for not only, as I said, for the LGBT community, but also for every citizen in this country who believes that irrespective of what your choices are, sexually and otherwise, equal rights should be given to the citizens of this country. Diljit is also joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Diljit, what's your view? How would you summarize for us, if you can please, the entire argument that took place in those 4 days when the Supreme Court heard this curative petition? What were the key points that came out of this?
See, firstly, I'll start off with 377. 377 says that whosoever voluntarily has carnal intercourse against the order of nature, that is what the offence is. So there is no question of consent as far as this offence is concerned. The arguments which were hovering in the Supreme Court was basically confined to the factum that if there are two adults who are consenting to having carnal or intercourse, right, then that should be permissible. that is violative of Article 14, 21 and a host of other fundamental rights. I think that the take of the Supreme Court on this should be and would be that as far as consenting adults are concerned, they would be exempt from the rigor of 377. It does not mean that the statute is going to be struck down, because if there is non-consent, carnal intercourse, that continues to be a very heinous sexual crime.
You know, the fact is that isn't there other laws that are there to take care of this sort of you know, misdemeanor of or somebody who is being subjected to this kind of exploitation? We have very stringent rape laws in this country. Why do you need a separate section for, you know, certain individuals?
Because rape laws do not cover carnal intercourse. Rape laws are only confined to, and there too, if you see the essence of the rape laws, consent is a very, very important factor. It's a very important ingredient of the offence. As far as 377 is concerned, today consent has got no value. Even if there are two consenting adults who have carnal intercourse, they fall foul of 377. That is where the entire impetus of the arguments before the Honorable Supreme Court was, that two consenting adults, of whether they are of the LGBT community or otherwise, even between a married husband and wife, carnal intercourse constitutes a very heinous sexual offence. Another aspect which came up for a lot of arguments in the Honorable Supreme Court was, what is the order of nature? What might be an order of nature for one person may not be the order of nature for the other person. This came into the statute book nearly 150 years back. So as the country has evolved today, even if it is a minuscule percentage of the population, they are entitled to their sexual orientation preferences. People are born with it. They get to know when they become adolescents as to what their sexual preference is. So how can we say that it is against the order of nature? But I again come out to the same point. It is not important for this particular statute to be struck off the statute book, but what needs to be read into it is that if it is non-consenting carnal intercourse between two adults, that should constitute and continue to constitute a heinous offence. However, if it is two consenting individuals who undergo this particular act, then that should not be an offence.
All right, we're also being joined by Rahuleshwara, activist who is in fact with us on the broadcast. Rahul, there's this whole argument as far as 377 goes. The argument, as Mr. Diljit was very, aptly just distinguishing the fact that in the Supreme Court, the question is about two consenting adults. Whatever happens in the bedroom of two consenting adults, how can that be in any way a matter in which the state should intervene in any form?
Sir, there are two things. One, I concede that there are different shades of opinion in the entire believing and the right-leaning cultural community. But, 2016, we had a huge meeting, pan-India meeting, where different community leaders were there. Two principles stand we took. One, we are not homophobic and we don't support any kind of homophobia. At the same point of time, the entire LGBT debate is not only a question of equality, but also a question of sexuality and scientific attitude towards it. This is not mere equality or legality. There are much more deeper cultural and sexual angles to it, where we should take the help of science to reach a consensus. And we think this is a deviant behavior. We don't call it a disease. We don't call it some kind of illness, but we think it is not a variant behavior.
All right, we seem to have lost that line with Rahul. We'll try and reconnect with him. I quickly want your comments on this, Shashi, of what Mr. Diljit was saying and what Rahul is also trying to project, because at least on this, it seems that there is a lot of misinformation and already preconceived notions when people come on to this debate or when they speak about this topic, and especially when it comes from religious fundamentalists. This is one topic which has almost united the fundamentalists from every religion, from Hindu, Muslim, Christians. All of them seem to be standing together on this.
I remember when we started our struggles years ago, and at that time these things were not much talked about, and all thanks to media and being so positive. Honestly, I must say that I've seen this struggle for 20 years, and people started talking about that. And you're right when you say that. I don't know why there are so many misconceptions, notions among people that people relate it with some other diseases. People think it's anti-social thing. And when it comes to the religious groups, as you have said, they have come united against LGBTQ community. At least I'm happy that they are united on this front. But the thing is that here, one thing is really important to understand, as Ranjit has said, that Section 377, honestly, when you read this section, whosoever has a carnal intercourse, it means it covers heterosexual couples also.
That's right.
But the thing is that predominantly we live in a heterosexual society. So this section has always been used against the gay community or homosexual people. But the tragedy is that I don't know when people, it's only through education, it's only through awareness, and that's what we have been doing. NAS Foundation has done a lot of work in this regard, and you know that NAS Foundation was the first one who filed the petition, and today our struggle has reached to a stage where people are aware of, honestly, those, that time when I remember 20 years ago and the time now, people have got a lot of awareness, and we are happy that now people are talking about these things, and we are able to change the mindset of the large section of the society also.
Diljit, you know, what do you make of the stand of the government as far as this is concerned? They have not very clearly stated their position in this entire matter. They have left it to the wisdom of the court to decide what they deem fit. Should that be taken as you know, some sort of a relentlessness from the government to take a very clear stand on a section of people, those who have been struggling against the discrimination?
I think they are running with the hares and hunting with the wolves. They are just taking a you know, a position which is quite neutral, because in certain times they have said we leave it to the court, and there are other times when they have adopted a very rigid stand with regard to opposing it. Now, coming back to a very important point I would like to say with regard to perception of the people, right? Here we are talking about heterosexual couples also indulging in this in their bedroom. That should not be the concern of the state. I was involved in a case recently wherein there were two very husband and wife, very highly educated, very highly placed in the corporate sector, wherein the husband inflicted forced carnal intercourse with the wife just to punish her for not giving up her property to him. So kindly look at the perception which is there in the minds of the Indian, most of the Indians, that this is something which is bad. It is not something which is bad. It is the order of nature is something which has to be seen in today's times. Constitution is living law. Constitution was formulated many years back, but even it caters to whatever is going to happen in times to come when the society evolves. The Supreme Court has already, you know, the honorable judges have been very forthcoming with their observations with regard to this. Fundamental rights are fundamental rights, whether it is of one man or it is of the entire community. If one person's fundamental right is infringed, then it is cause of concern for the Honorable Supreme Court under Article 32. It is the ultimate guardian of the fundamental rights of all the citizens.
Rahul, I want you to come in on this. We also have a couple of reactions that, okay, we've lost that line with Rahul. So let me just play out these couple of reactions from the lawyers from either side of this debate. Let's listen in to those reactions quickly. We will continue, in fact, this special broadcast after that.
हम लोग रुकेंगे verdicts तक, judgments तक. Clearly, per the cause list, there's going to be more than one judgment. We look forward to all the judgments from this constitutional bench. The constitutionality of Section 377 and equality and dignity for LGBT Indians.
Section 377 were to be decriminalized, we would be able to kind of contest having multiple genders being recognized. We would be able to contest having, relief programs for LGBTQ plus people who need it the most. There'll be so much more to explore and discover in terms of what we can provide to the LGBTQ plus community if we were to decriminalize Section 377.
We'll try and reconnect with Rahul in just a short while from now. Shashi, I want you to come in on this at this point of time. As Diljit was saying, that it's not a very easy issue. It's just not about decriminalizing gay sex because of the nature of the wording of this entire article. What would you be expecting the Supreme Court to do today? Is the primary play to strike it down, or would you seek some amendments as far as this entire section goes?
You know, when I look at this thing, first thing is that we are quite hopeful that some nice verdict in favor of LGBTQ community comes. But the thing is that when it comes to decriminalization of Section 377 and legalization of homosexuality, people need to understand that these two are different things. As your question itself says, that are we expecting more? If it is legalized, then a lot of changes need to be done. Your inheritance property laws and your marriage laws, all those laws need to be changed actually. But right now we are seeking for, our main demand is seeking for decriminalization of Section 377, that these people are not criminals actually. That according to that section, Section 377 of IPC is, whosoever has carnal intercourse shall be punished 10 years. And those who are involved in these sexual activities, they are considered criminals. That's our main demand. And aside that, I think when people say these are gay rights, these are homosexual rights, no, these are basic human rights. People need to understand, lot of sections are involved, lots of articles, Article 14, Article 19, Article 21 of the Constitutions are, we want to have a dignified life, we want to have equality. That's our main demand, and that's what we are expecting from the Supreme Court. Let's see what happens.
Harish Iyer, equal rights campaigner, is also joining us from Mumbai on the broadcast. Harish, welcome. Let me start by asking you, what is your expectation today from the Supreme Court? In fact, after in 2013, then when there was a setback post that, what would you be hoping to hear at 10:30 or 11 when the judgment does come in?
I'm very hopeful of a positive verdict. I think the court, the apex court, is going to reinstate our faith in the constitution of our nation. It's also going to reinstate our faith in humanity as a whole, because what individuals do, what adults do in their private lives should not be left for anyone else other than the adults to decide, as long as it is with consent. I think this is very basic. Love is the law of nature, and I'm sure that our top court will also stand up for love in all forms.
Are you in any way disappointed with the stand that the government has taken in this case?
Absolutely. See, when you're silent on an issue that affects the human rights of individuals, you simply are not silent. You're actually taking the side of the oppressor. So I don't see it as a reason to celebrate that they have been silent and they've not said something homophobic. But the truth is that by being silent, they've actually, because it's a very basic human rights issue. How can you not have a stand on a human rights issue which actually violates our human rights? Because this gives, because Section 377 actually allows people to peep into our bedrooms and police our private lives. And this is something that the government should get up and say that, you know what, this is wrong and we stand against it. So if they have not said anything, that simply means that they've said everything.
Right. We will continue this discussion. I have to take a very quick break. Rahul is also back with us on the broadcast. We'll get Rahul to hear his views as well. Quick break, coming back. The verdict, I believe, is expected anytime between 10:30 and 11. Possibly after the break, the proceedings in the court will start there. We'll get in a quick word from my colleagues, those who are at the Supreme Court as well. Log on to our website, indiatoday.in, for all the latest, not only on this, but from other stories across the globe as well. Don't forget, you can download the India Today app for the fastest and the latest updates.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.